Reed Spencer with Sporting News. Carl, one thing that I thought was interesting that Ricky said when he was up here was that you practice better than he does, and that basically it takes him longer throughout the course of the race to get his car dialed in because you're more efficient at establishing a baseline during practice and getting the car the way you want it. Is that something that really takes a while to learn, as you race in these series?
Well, see, that's one of the problems we're going to have with Ricky is he understands where he's not getting everything he could. So that's a big deal for him to recognize that. I hadn't thought of that. What's difficult about practice, what seems like it's difficult to me, is that we get really one set of tires to practice on. So as you make changes, you got to make sure you're not putting yourself outside of the ballpark. That you're actually making changes that help. And I think Mike is really, really good at helping me to understand where in the tire life we are as we're making changes and make sure we're going the right direction. It is tough, and I think it's one of the hardest parts about this series right now is practicing the right.
I have a couple. Carl, you made the late decision to race next week at Road America. Do you know exactly who's going to practice your Cup car yet on Saturday and how it's all going to work?
It's a really good question. We hadn't talked about that. I think we're talking about maybe having Billy Johnson practice the Nationwide car. He's for sure going to practice the Nationwide car on Friday. And then we had talked about flying him back on Saturday morning to practice the Cup car, but I don't know if we're going to be able to do that or not. We haven't got all the details worked out. But Billy Johnson did a really good job testing it at Road Atlanta. Really good job. He made me step up my game, and I don't think he has very many laps at all in these cars. He was very good. So we haven't figured out exactly what we're going to do, but Jack might have more about that.
Yeah, Billy Johnson is a name that most of you haven't heard, but he's been racing with my son, Jack Jr., in the Nationwide, in the Grand American Continental Classic Mustang series in a Mustang, and they've won 2 races this year in that car. They're going to race at Road America as well. So Billy was also in one of our Nationwide cars at Watkins Glen last year, and he got involved in a wreck early on, but he practiced well, and he was running well when he got involved in a wreck.
And I have one for Jack. Obviously winning here is big, and the Gibbs guys have been your main competition in this series. Does it mean anything more to beat them, considering the problems they've had on the Cup side with the oil pans and everything? Is it like, man, we got to beat them because of what's going on?
Well, the Gibbs guys and the Toyota program has been strong. We've had strength in our program, and this business ebbs and flows. They're going through a little bit of at least a plateau right now, if not a little bit of a hole. But they'll come out of that the same as we did. All your top teams can't stay on top all the time. They have to move it around.
A follow-up to that, Jack, I assume that you went and looked at the oil pans that came off the Gibbs car. Just wondered what you thought and how serious an issue you think that is.
Well, they put a part on the car that was not approved. If you make a change to a component on the car and it's something different than what is in the garage, you better go show it to John Darby. If you don't, he's likely to tell you take it off your car. And that's what happened. They put an unapproved part on the car that had an advantage aerodynamically for sure on the bottom of the car. I didn't check the part. I didn't pick it up. I wish I had. It might have been tungsten. It was either steel or tungsten, and it could have been tungsten for the bottom of the oil pan. And if it was, that would have even been more of an advantage. But NASCAR looked at it, said there was nothing else like it in the garage. They took it off the car, which they do the same for us. They do the same for anybody, happily.
Kevin Schwartz, the ARCA Truck Series. Carl, for those upstairs that don't know, we're watching Speed TV and the off-road trucks. Notice, Carl, you've kind of been watching the races here. You think we can ever see you in one of those?
I was just telling Jack that looks like a lot of fun. That metal militia truck just flipped about 4 times. Hope that wasn't Brian Deegan in it, but that stuff's pretty neat. There's a lot of neat racing going on right now, and it's cool to see that stuff out there. It looks fun.
Steve Newman, Lake County News Herald. This is for both Carl and for Jack. First, Jack, what did you think of the penalty handed down to your fellow owner in regards to that little altercation he had with Mr. Bush.
Well, it was pretty high. I guess that pretty much puts a nail in the coffin of have at it, guys. Now, maybe that was a boy and a man. I'm not sure. Maybe that's different than the boys having at it.
Well, that was kind of what I was leading up to in terms of owners.
That's all you guys needed was that one little soundbite. Now they'll be. That's pretty. You gave it to him, Jack. You fell right into it.
Yeah, I was on Richard Childress' side of that particular dispute. Kyle is with impunity. He's been pretty rough on my cars over a period of time, and for Richard to stand up for himself was okay.
Would you have done the
I'm
same thing?
disappointed it cost him that much, but he was standing up for himself.
Would you ever consider doing something like that yourself after the penalty or before the penalty was issued?
Well, I've got some plates in my face right now, and I've got some serious injuries that I'm dealt with, and I think my fighting days are over.
I wouldn't count on it, though.
Are there any other questions? Sorry. Wait.
I heard a story, Carl, about you giving away a driver's uniform one time to a fan. And, I mean, you really go over and above the whole fan thing, whether it's up in the stands or, just what you do on a regular basis. Can you just talk about what it means to you to engage the fan base like that?
Well, the fans are what make this sport what it is. I think Jack's the one who said we could all go out in the middle of middle of the night, some country road and race each other, but it wouldn't be near as much fun. So, these fans are what make this sport. And, that going up in the grandstands and stuff like that, I hope the other drivers will start doing that. That is not my deal. I don't own that victory celebration. That's really neat to go up there. I would recommend it to anyone. But yeah, they're the most important part of this sport, and I really enjoy being able to spend the time I get to spend with them, and it's really fun when we win to be able to share a little bit together. That's cool.
All right, gentlemen, congratulations. Carl, Mike, Jack, thanks for stopping in. Good luck tomorrow, and happy
Thanks.
Father's Day weekend.
Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, guys.